All right.
All right.
Welcome. Yes, welcome everyone to Show Me the Money, Use Pivot to Find Funding Opportunities. I'm Bettina Peacemaker. I'm the head of academic outreach at VCU Libraries. I'm actually going to introduce the star of our show in a minute, but I wanted to first let you know that this session is being recorded. After the session, you will get an email with a link to the recording and the slides, and also a link to a survey. It may actually take a little bit of time for the video with full closed captioning to be ready, but it should be in a couple of days. That page will also contain materials from past sessions, from the Advance Your Research series, and information about future workshops, and a survey that will help us plan our programming. So we like to hear about some of the topics you might be interested in. If you have any questions during the session today, there is a chat box. And if it isn't already open, if you move down to the bottom of the screen, a little bar will open up and you'll see a chat icon, and that will open up the group chat. And you can ask your questions there. I will be monitoring it as well as Melissa. And so if you, if we can't answer it quickly, we'll wait till the end of the session to do so. So enough about the details. It's my pleasure to introduce Melissa Throckmorton, the Coordinator of Research Development Services from the Office of Research and Innovation here at VCU.
Good afternoon, everybody. As Bettina said, I work here in the Office of Research and Innovation, and my main role is to help people with writing grants and finding funding opportunities. So that's the main reason that we're here today. And we're going to be going through some information about how to set yourself up to find the best funding opportunity. And then also we are going to go through Pivot step by step. So one of the things that I might ask you to do is, as we're going through the slides, because it's a bit difficult to switch screens on this side, if you want to go ahead and open up Pivot, then what we can do is you can follow along with me at your computer, and I'll give a little bit of time, sort of in between, so that you can do the steps that we're talking about if you'd like. So one of the things that I wanted to do is I wanted to see if you guys currently have a Pivot account. So you should see a poll showing up. Yep, everybody's doing it. Fantastic. And okay, so the majority of you do not. So that's great. That's fine. So what we're going to do is you'll probably be able to have enough time to do that while we're working through these slides. I'm going to tell you exactly how to do that, and then how to confirm it in your email so that you can go ahead and start using it. The other thing that I wanted to ask was basically if anybody has any information or has worked with grant writing before. So I want to see if you've done anything with funding searches. So if you guys can let me know if you have no experience, some experience, or a little bit of your experience, but you haven't used Pivot. But you've used other things such as Google or Foundation Directory, things of that nature. Okay, great. And the last thing that I wanted to check in with you is grant writing experience. Have any of you either helped with the grant writing proposal, helped with the budget, helped with the literature review, or written your own grants, maybe for a dissertation or something of that nature? Okay, so a lot of you have done that. You just don't have as much experience with finding funding. Oh, a lot. 68% of you have helped on a grant proposal before. That's great. Okay, now that I've gotten that out of the way and I know a little bit about your experience, let's go ahead and launch into the presentation. It's called Show Me the Money, using Pivot to Find Funding Opportunities. And today we are going to go through 5 different areas. First, we're going to go through a 4-step strategy to help you kind of get ready to look for your funding. Then we're going to do something called crafting your elevator speech. If you've never heard of an elevator speech, where it came from was when lobbyists and other people were trying to talk to legislators. What they wanted to do is they would find them in the elevators because they could never get a chance to talk to them. So really they had about 30 seconds to talk to them. And so what they could do is when they got into the elevator, they would literally have 3 or 4 sentences that they could launch out in 30 seconds to tell the legislator how important what it was that they were doing or that they wanted passed done. So a lot of times if I'm looking for funding for someone, I will ask them to craft one of these elevator speeches for me and send it to me, along with some keywords that they sometimes don't think about until they've written this out in lay language. Then we're going to go through Pivot step by step. Then we're going to have just a few additional search strategies and tips, and then we're going to take your questions. So the presentation will probably take, I'd say, about 40 minutes, and then we'll have some time for questions after that. Okay, 4-step strategy. One of the things that you don't want to do is just sort of launch into the database or trying to find funding without a direction. A lot of times it's going to take much more time that way. You're going to have a hard time trying to find things in that subject area. So what you want to do is think about the program, think about what it is that you want to research, and then sort of go through these questions just to get you oriented with your own thoughts so that you can make a list of what it is that you really want to look for and what you're really trying to get to and get funded. So one of the first steps is to evaluate your needs for your research or your program. So what is it that you're trying to solve? What is the problem? What's the need or the gap? You know, what's been already done in the research area, but people aren't doing this or they're not answering this question. What is the reason that you're doing the research, and why is it important to address that? You know, everybody knows that, you know, cancer is a problem, but why is your particular research about cancer important? And what's it going to do to help advance the discipline going forward? Writing out your hypothesis or your research statement, if you've gotten that far. If not, just a general idea. To help you sort of gather your thoughts and organize them a little bit. Why is your research or program outstanding or significant? What's different about it? What's significant about it? And who's going to benefit from it? How is it unique or different? How is it innovative? One of the things now that you really want to think about, and sometimes it can help you with finding funding, is how else can it be used? You might be looking at it in a mainstream format and thinking, you know, this is just the one silo, you know, that I'm going to look at for this research or this program. But chances are it could help a different target audience. It could help in a different discipline. You could bring in some other collaborators that might have a different piece on it or a different spin on it that would make it even more unique and different than what it is that you're thinking about now. So don't limit yourself necessarily. And why should your research or program be funded over another need? You know, why is this more important than everything else? Why, with the limited resources that foundation or the National Institutes of Health or National Science Foundation, which they are dwindling even more with the budget, so why should they give you that money, you know? Okay, the next step is to again, define your research project or program around your identified need or gap. So now you have your problem, you know what it is that you want to do, and you know what it is that you want to solve it. So what's your plan? You know, what do you need to find out about that? What's the background? You know, run through the literature and see what you can find. And that's also a great way to find keywords. If you find things that people have done before, if you find people in their publications, a lot of times you can find different keywords or phrases or things like that that you can go in and take a look at to find funding. Find out how they've been funded before. When you're looking at literature, a lot of times people will have to cite the people who gave them the funding for that report or that publication. What is your mission statement for this research? What is your hypothesis? What are your aims, your goals and objectives? Write those down. Even if they're rough, that's fine. It's still just going to give you an idea. What's your timeline? When you're looking at a grant, and one of the best examples that I use is if you are trying to do something in K through 12 education, and you want to do something that starts at the beginning of the school year, which is usually either in August or September right now, not talking about year-round schools. So if you want to do something where your project is going to start in September, early September, you need to back up from that point. So you are going to try to find an opportunity that will fund you sometime in the summer so that you can have everything ready to go and start at the beginning of the school year. So most of the time, if you are going to go to a federal agency or a state agency, I would say anywhere from 4 to 8 months to get funding, especially larger agencies like the NIH, NSF, or the Department of Education. So that's backing you up at least 6 months right there. Then on top of that, I really think that people should use about 2 months to put their grants together. And the reason for this is so that you can rewrite, you can have other people read them and take a look at what you're doing. So you really do have to time out what you're going to do and when you want your project to start. And you might say, well, what does that have to do with finding any kind of funding? Because these deadlines are really important because you want to make sure that you have your money before you need to start your project and you don't have to wait a whole nother year to get going on your research. So your assessment plan and tools, required materials, supplies, and personnel. You know, do you need a student who's going to be working in the summer? Are you going to try to get a postdoc? And then total cost, being as specific as possible. And the one other thing that I want to say is just be careful about chasing the money. If you have a smaller project, which a lot of people who are just getting started in grant writing or early investigators, early investigative faculty, fellowship grants, smaller dissertation grants, just because there's a large amount of money that you can get as an award, it might not match your project. So what you need to do is make sure that you're matching the budget and the funding opportunity that you find to your project, not trying to match the money, not trying to match your project and make it bigger or smaller depending on, you know, where you want to go to find the funding or how much you can get. So that's why doing this homework ahead of time really saves you a lot of time, because you're going to go in, you're going to know exactly what it is that you need and what you're looking for. Okay, this is crafting your elevator speech. So all of that homework that you've just done about why your research is important, why it's significant, what you're going to be doing, and what problem you're going to be solving and your outcomes, now you need to translate that into something that someone outside of your field would be able to understand. Now, I'm not saying, you know, that necessarily if you're in medicine or physics or, you know, maybe you have a very, very specific area of history that you're studying, there is going to be, some jargon, some different phrases and things that you're going to have to use. But if you can drill it down for the most part to 1 to 2 paragraphs where you can talk about exactly what you're going to do, give a brief description of the need, 2 or 3 facts or statistics as to why it's important and significant, what's your overall aim or goal, in 3 sentences or less, what you're going to do to achieve that aim, what are your outcomes and benefits, and what questions do you think the person that would be reading that would ask you? And the questions can even be if it's somebody who's in your area. So once you've written all of that down, think about it. You know, is there anything that you haven't answered? Are there any questions that you need to ask yourself? And give it to other people to read. And then that way you can find out if there's any questions, if you're missing something. And believe me, this is really going to help. You're probably sitting there wondering, why do I have to do all this homework ahead of time? And you're going to save. So step 4 is when you find the right funding entity and opportunity. So you're going to consider the available option in relation to the needs and resources that you just came up with. And the number one thing that you always want to check is eligibility. When you find a funding opportunity, the very first thing you need to go to is who is eligible to apply to that funding opportunity. Because if you get all the way through it, you've wasted your time reading all the way through an RFP that you can't even apply to. So the very first thing I always check when someone sends me something is the eligibility. This is especially true on fellowships and very specific funding opportunities, sometimes from the National Endowment for the Humanities. Even NIH has a lot of them that are very, very specific. So you just want to make sure that you're eligible for it. Once you've gotten through that part, you want to take a look at the type of funding that you need for your research. You know, are you just going to go to a conference? Do you need money to travel to look at an archive? Are you actually looking for program funding where you might be better to go someplace in the community or to a foundation instead of a larger federal or state agency? Or is it a basic research grant, which you might go to NSF? Is it more on the clinical or the patient-oriented side or translational health research? Then you'd want to look at NIH. So taking a look at that can kind of give you an idea of where you're going to go. Once you've figured that out and you're going in and you're looking at the opportunity, you're going to want to look at the mission and the stated goals of the agency or the foundation or the organization. Like I was just saying, say, for instance, the Gates Foundation. The Gates Foundation is focusing on disease right now, disease and education. You might be able to go there, but they're a really large agency. So a lot of times you already have to have a relationship with the people there or the program officers. Like I said, if you're doing health-related research, you really want to look at NIH, Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, different foundations that deal with health-oriented research. If you're doing basic research, that's more of the National Science Foundation, anything in engineering, physics, chemistry, really basic sort of sometimes bench science is what it's called. And then going back again to eligibility, you're going to look at the expected level of experience, stated or implied. You want to be realistic with that. And make sure that you know, you're not doing something that you have more experience than is actually needed, but you're not also getting in over your head. The goals of the particular opportunity, do they meet your goals? Again, whether or not they want a letter of intent, which means that you have to send in a letter, that basically says that you were going to apply for this, or a pre-proposal where it's usually in 2 stages, and you send in a pre-proposal and they say that you can apply to the full grant. And what's your due date? Like we were talking about, the grant start dates. How long is the project period? Do you need a year for your program? Do you need 2 years, 3 years? You want to think about that. And then the amount available. So then we're going to go into pivot. So let me stop there real quick and see if there are any questions before we get into the real nitty-gritty part of pivot and signing in and things of that nature. So if you have any questions about what we just talked about, go ahead and send them through the chat, and we'll see if we can answer them now. So we'll give you a couple of minutes to do that. And it looks like we don't have any questions right now. Oh. Okay, the question that I'm getting is, are most of the funding sources for all students or for U.S. citizens? It depends on the opportunity. The National Institutes of Health, a lot of times for their career development awards and their fellowships for postdoctoral students, will be for U.S. citizens or permanent residents. But most places I would say are for all students. So that's why you really need to read the eligibility piece. And I don't think it's really that restricted. That's really the only set of grants. So does that help? Anybody else? Okay. So Bettina has given you the website for Pivot if you want to follow along with what I'm doing, because I know that the majority of you said that you did not have an account. So why don't we start there? Pivot is just a huge database. You can read the information on this. Bettina's going to post this presentation for you. So, great. Somebody told me that they just registered. Fantastic. So in creating a Pivot account, you can access that through the library, which is the one that Bettina sent to you, or you can go to this address right here, and then you're going to see sign up in the upper right-hand corner, right here where it's circled in red. Excuse me. So if you want to go ahead and take a look at that. Once you get into there, you're going to want to fill out all the fields. You have to use your vcu.edu address because the account is through VCU, so you can't use sort of a Google address or anything of that nature. So you have to use your student or staff or faculty address. So you just put in your first and last name, where your institution email is, and then you just put in a password. Now, once you've done that, you're going to get an email that comes to your VCU account. And you're just gonna open up the email and click confirm. And then we're gonna go back in and you will log into your account. So is anybody following along and doing that now? Great. I'll give you about a minute to get in there and then get to your email. I'm going back to the website. Somebody asked for it. This is the one that you can get through just on the main internet. Fantastic. Okay, once you've done that, just head on to your email and click confirm, and then you're set. And it should, when you hit confirm, take you back so that you can go ahead and log in. Sorry, a little technical difficulty with my phone there. So you're going to log into the Pivot account. And you're going to put in your username and your password that you just did. Bettina just sent, I don't know if you just saw it, she said if you access from the library, you can still search without an account, but you'll miss out on a lot of the features. So that is why I would definitely recommend that everybody gets an account. And this is for anybody, students, anybody who has a vcu.edu email account can use this database. Okay, there are several ways of searching Pivot, and we're going to go through, you'll see each of these when we go through the different screens. There's quick search, then you can do a sponsor search, search advisor, and then an advanced search. I like to do quick searches first, just so that you can take a look and, you know, kind of see what's out there first. But we're going to start with advanced searches, and then I'll show you where you can go in and just do the quick searches. So advanced searches are where you can go in, you're going to click on the funding tab right up at on the top left, and on your home page, or you can go to funding. On your home page, you can do the quick searches, and quick searches are here where you're just typing in the keywords, and then you can go to the advanced search, and that will let you do some extra things. And on the advanced search, you can look for things like activity location, citizenship or residency, like somebody was just asking, funding type, you can do it by keyword, applicant type, which we're going to talk about, and sponsor type. And then you just take search. So we're going to go through the different ones of these. Amounts, deadlines, and funding type and keyword are pretty much self-explanatory. Limited submissions are where the funding agency always says that, say, VCU can only have 2 applicants that can go from here, or 3 applicants, or 1 applicant. You're normally probably not going to take a look at those because most of the time those are from the larger agencies, and they do deal with faculty. I handle limited submissions here at VCU, so they are announced on the res admin list. It's a listserv that goes out to the whole university. But a lot of these are faculty members, and I noticed that we had a good mix of graduate students, some undergraduates, and faculty members. So some of those might apply to you. Activity location, I don't like to use this one, and I'll tell you why. Because when you put in United States or Virginia, then it really does cut down on the responses that you get. So I like to do it as a large pyramid. You start out as big as possible, and then you narrow it down. So if you're already doing activity location and you do United States, it might miss something from another funder that will still let you work in the United States, but they're not based here. And citizenship or residency, funding type, we're going to take a look at when we look on the side of the search that came in. Funding type is basically if it is a grant, a fellowship, a dissertation, all of those are in Pivot. Applicant type means if you're an academic institution, an individual can apply. If you're a student, if you're a postdoctoral scholar, things like that. And then sponsor types are if you want to limit it to a certain sponsor type, such as federal, foundation, associations, things like that. So, and you're going to see that in the next ones. So the search that we've done here, if you look up at the top in search funding results, we did community outreach, we did academic institutions or individuals, early career and emerging in field, and then we did citizenship, United States, or unrestricted, unspecified, where they just didn't say anything about it. So we came up with 19 results, which is here in the middle. And then you can sort these results by the title, the sponsor name, deadlines, depending on, you know, if you wanted to go sooner or later, and the amounts in highest to lowest. Now on the left-hand side, this is the bar that you're really going to use to break down your funding results. Say you put in community engaged research. Chances are you might get 1,000 results. So you want to be able to narrow those down. So the top funding sites, the top funding types can be research, program or curriculum grants, which is normally your educational areas, community programs, things like that. Collaboration or cooperative agreements, which is just a different, a collaborative agreement means that the agency or the foundation works with you on your grant. They don't just give you the money and let you do the research. And then meeting or conference, if you're just, you know, looking to hold a meeting or a conference or to head out, or artistic pursuit. Sponsor types. This is what I was talking about. Private foundations are your normal nonprofit organizations. Commercial would be any sort of industry sponsor. And then federal U.S., which would be your federal agencies, professional societies, or other nonprofits. And then you go down to applicant types. And each of these is a hyperlink, and it drills down all of the results that you have. So if you clicked on research, you would pull 16 results from that, and then you could keep drilling down until you found what you were looking for. So going back over here to the left, applicant types, you have individuals, which would be mid-career faculty individuals, individuals that are early career. Now, individual grants are ones that you personally apply to. These would mostly be fellowships or dissertation grants, things like that. Nonprofits are limited to nonprofit organizations, and actually VCU can apply to these because there are several VCU foundations on campus, and those can run through the development office. If you have any questions about any of that, you can just email that to me. But VCU can apply as a nonprofit. Academic institution, which obviously VCU counts, and then individuals who are graduate students. So 6 of these 19 results, individuals who are graduate students would be able to apply to those. So if you are undergrad, grad, postdoc, things like that, go ahead and take a look in that area. And then at the bottom here, these are the top keywords that came out of what we did up at the top. So out of these 19, most of them are in biology or environmental conservation and that type of stuff. Okay, so in understanding your search results, like I said, if you want to sort them, you go right up here to sort, which is right next to your results. And if you want to use the faceted search results, which is a big word for the ones that, the list that's on the left-hand side to drill down, you can also click Refine Query, which is Refine Search right here, right up at the top, so that you can go in there, and then that takes you back to the first advanced search screen that we were looking at, where you can pick the different ones that you want. So that would take you back to this screen here. And then you want to, you can check the ops to set to active or tracked, and I'm going to show you how to do that in just a minute. If you do that, you'll be alerted for upcoming deadlines. Active opportunities are critical ones that you really want to watch pretty much on a kind of a daily basis to see if they're coming out or something like that. And tracked opportunities are a little less critical, but still important. Because I do the limited submissions, I have all the limited submissions tracked so that if anything happens with them, any changes, any deadline changes, things like that, they will send me an email alert. And I'm going to show you what that looks like a little bit later on. You want to check the opportunities because you can send them to your colleagues or groups. So if you are working with a group of different colleagues and you find a funding opportunity that you like, you can email that to them. And then you click on the opportunity for the full record that will take you back to the NIH, usually the program announcement. It will take you to the foundation website if it's a foundation. So that takes you to the original funding opportunity, not just the record that's in Pivot. So it's, if you just click on that, it will take you to the larger one. So we've done that search and we have those search results, the 19 search results, and you want to save that funding search so that it'll update on its own. Because if you save a search, it will always stay in your list and it will update on its own every week. And you can decide whether or not you want to get an email about that. So that's going to be at the top where we were looking at our indicators for the search. Right next to advanced search and refined search. In the middle, you would click on save search. So if you go back to the larger one, it's going to be right up here at the very top, Save Search. So you're going to click on Save Search, and then you're going to give the search a name, whatever it is that you want to call it. Then you can check the box right beneath it that says, do you want to get a weekly email with new or updated opportunities? And then all you do is click Save, and it's going to show up as one of your saved searches. So that's going to appear on your home page. And at the very end, if we have time, I'll show you my home page. I have a couple of searches that are set up there. So I'm going to pause right there. I see that Bettina's doing some questions on signing up. Just want to see if there's anything that anybody wants to ask right now. Okay. So when you save the search, this is what an email is going to look like coming to you. This is the email. I receive them every Sunday. So this is just what mine looks like because I have it set up for limited submission opportunities. This is the email I got on Monday. This is what it would look like. You can click at the bottom and go to the actual search results in your Pivot account. Now we're going to go through dissecting an opportunity when you get to a record. So when you're in here and you click on one of these links right here, it's going to take you to a record for that particular funding opportunity. This is what a record looks like. Well, half of a record, basically, because I couldn't fit it all on one slide. So at the top, you're going to have the title, and then it's going to tell you when they last put in any information about that opportunity. Then you're going to have the full details down at the bottom. You're going to have the website where you can click. This is a NSF opportunity, so it would take you, this will take you directly to the NSF grant instructions, which is called a request for proposal. Then you have the sponsor, the directorate, the program that it comes under. CFDA number is something that works with grants.gov. You can use it to find an opportunity. If you go to the grants.gov website, which is the huge federal website for finding funding opportunities, I suggest just clicking on the website at the top. It will tell you if it's a limited submission or not, because this was in my list. It is, where it says that they can submit one proposal. The amount is where it tells you how much funding you can get for the opportunity. It's going to be a standard grant. They're looking at giving out 60 to 80 awards. The funding amount can be anywhere from 70 million to 95 million. That's how much money they have to give out. And the upper limit of what you can ask for is $5 million. And if they have more, that means that they have some more information on the amount. The applicant type is academic institution. If that's the case, you have to apply through VCU. It's not an individual grant. Citizenship or residency to apply for this grant is the United States. And that usually always means that you either have to be a citizen or you have a permanent residency here. And then the activity location is in the United States. The second, the bottom half of that opportunity record, they will have an abstract of what the opportunity is about and what it is that they're looking for. This is the eligibility piece. A lot of times you can find that on the record and you can automatically find out if it's for you or not for you. And then this is one of the best things I like about it is it has a list of keywords at the bottom of every single opportunity. So if this one doesn't look particularly right for you, you can go anywhere with any of these keywords and keep drilling down and taking a look. And then at the bottom, it has all of the deadlines, and then it'll tell you whether or not you have to put in a full proposal or if you have to put in a pre-proposal, and it'll have all of those deadlines. They'll all be listed here. This just happens to have the one. If you want to track an individual opportunity, you can go up to the upper right-hand side. This is the same opportunity. I have it tracked in my list. And all you do is click this flag, And then it'll be tracked, and it'll work just like how your saved search worked. So you can click on it and see if you want to have emails sent to you. If you do, if anything changes on this opportunity, Pivot will send you an email and let you know that there's been a change and what had happened to it, whether or not it has a new deadline, or if it has a different metric that you have to have for eligibility, anything like that. And this is what that looks like when you, this is an email I just got a couple of days ago about another limited submission. And what it's told me is that the deadlines have been confirmed. Before it said that they were just anticipated. So this sends me an email right away when this is changed, because I have to send this out as an announcement. So this is really helpful to me, so you know if it changes right away, especially if you know that a grant that you're looking for is going to have a really short turnaround time. Say you only have 30 days to get a grant proposal in. This is really helpful. And the last thing that I wanted to tell you about is when you have logged in and you make an account into Pivot, you are also going to have a profile. This really helps if you're trying to find collaborators in the next couple of slides. So how you find that is you're going to go to your home page, and then you're going to go to the very top, and you're going to click at the arrow to the right of your name, and it'll say your profile. So you click on your profile, and this is what it's going to look like. I don't have much in there because I haven't published anything. I'm not a researcher, I'm an administrator. So your standard Pivot profile lists the information, including your affiliation, your title, contact information, and a lot of times they'll get that directly from your VCU account, which is where they have my title. I went in and put in the degrees that I had, and also the association that I belong to. And you can edit that to include, like I said, your degrees. You can put in your research interests, publications, or any other information that will help you find collaborators. And the other really neat thing about it is that because I do research development, grant writing, and nonprofit administration, it's showing me 59 funding opportunities that match to that expertise and research interests. So if I clicked on those, it would give me an entire list of things that are related to that. And then the last thing that you can do is going back to the other opportunity that we were taking a look at. You can also find collaborators through the different opportunity records. So in this tracked opportunity, you have down on the right-hand side, you can see potential collaborators. So if you were looking for somebody else that you wanted to talk to about STEM, with scholarships, or maybe doing something with K through 12 education, there's 147 potential collaborators just from inside VCU. So if you click on that, it's going to give you a list. 500 plus from outside institutions. There are a lot of universities, institutions, medical centers, other places that use Pivot. It's one of the most prolific databases out there. And this is what happens when you click on that list. This is the 147 from within VCU. And you can drill down based on medicine, natural sciences, applied science, and you might recognize some of these names. So it'll give you that entire list, and you can take a look and see if there's anybody that you want to contact, or, you know, kind of pick their brain about something, if you have a question, things like that. So this is really useful, and it's a piece of Pivot that a lot of people either don't use or are unaware of. So your profile can really help you. And you can see up here on the left-hand side, for this opportunity and outside institutions, there's over 187,000 potential collaborators. So it's really a useful tool. Okay, additional tips for using Pivot. We'll run through these really quickly since it's quarter till, and then we'll take questions. So you want to look for the keyword patterns like I was talking about. Pay attention to the notes within the individual opportunity records. You can look for an opportunity that you know. Say you know that there is a specific NIH opportunity that you've been wanting to apply to. You can take that description and take any keywords out of it and use those keywords to keep looking for opportunities within the database. Look up your mentors or your colleagues' funding matches. Chances are that they are going to have a profile in Pivot, and you can look in there and see on the right-hand side how they are getting funding matched up and the list of opportunities that has been assigned to them. You can save your searches and use the notification features. That way Pivot works for you. You don't have to work for Pivot. You can always review the funder's website and the RFP. Don't just rely on the information in Pivot. It is very good and it's normally very thorough, but a lot of times Pivot is just a summary. So you want to make sure that you always go to the funder's website or check the grant instructions, the RFPs, anything like that, and read all the way through it before you decide whether or not you're going to apply. And then you can use the support guides as needed. There's tons of places to find help on Pivot. They have an entire YouTube page. And the other thing that you can do is you can contact me or my boss, Dr. John Ryan, who's the AVP for Research Development, and we're happy to work with you on helping you sort of personalize your search. And so if you want any help or FAQs, there's a help button in the upper right-hand corner, and there'll also be the videos on Pivot. I have used those, and you know, it's really great. So this is us, and you will be able to find that in the when she posts the presentation up on, I think it's going on the library. I think that's right, Bettina. And you're also going to get a recording of this. So, all right, now we go to some questions. I just saw one from Audrey. So can we add researchers to Pivot without them having an account for collaboration purposes? No, they do have to establish a Pivot account in order for them to be able to claim a profile. Sometimes people, if they come from a different institution, will have a profile there, and they can still use that one, but I would really suggest them moving it over to VCU. So yes, they do have to have a profile to be able to be in the collaborator list. Can you, another question is, can you explain more about individual funding? I'm a Fulbright exchange scholar and need funding for one of my projects. Can you find funders in Pivot? You certainly can. Most of what you would do is you would go into the advanced search, and if you're looking just for individual funding, you're going to look underneath applicant type and just check individual, and it will only bring up individual funding. It won't bring up the ones where you have to go through the academic institution or the nonprofit. Okay. Then I have one, this is an enormous amount of material. I look forward to seeing the recording. Yes, it is an enormous amount of material. I could actually probably spend 3 hours on everything, including going through a demo. And like I said, you know, just let me know. If you have any questions, I'm available anytime. My contact info is on here, and I'm really happy to help. So did that answer your question about the individual funding? Great. Okay, here's another question. In your experience, have you seen funding offered under one discipline applicable to another, i.e. categorized under sociology but applicable to the social work field? Does this create any problems with obtaining funding? Yes, I see that all the time, and that's what I was talking about with thinking outside of the box and seeing if there are other ways that you can use your discipline for another discipline, to help solve a problem in there. So no, it doesn't create any problems with obtaining funding, really, as long as you're eligible to apply underneath that funding opportunity. Now, if you are going to go in a different direction, if it's something that's categorized under sociology, but you're really in social work, but you believe that your work will help something in sociology, my suggestion would always be to talk to a program officer who is going to be somebody who handles those grants or can help you. At the National Science Foundation and the larger agencies, there are program officers for each directorate, each area in NSF. Say if you're looking at mechanical engineering or if you're looking at biology. At foundations, there is normally one person that really handles that, and you can email them or give them a call, and their contact information will usually be on the website. With the individual funding, is it only limited to the USA? Not necessarily. There are a lot of international opportunities listed in Pivot. That's why I say don't limit it if you're going to do it into just the USA, because you'll miss the other opportunities. So I wouldn't limit it to the US, to Virginia, or anything else, because there are a lot of international opportunities in there. If I'm doing a research project and need to reach out to a couple of organizations in Richmond to administer an instrument such as a questionnaire, do you know any unit or department in VCU that could help with getting in touch with external organizations? Yes, actually, VCU has a community engagement department unit, and I think it's called the Center for Community Engagement. I would talk to them and see what they think. Now, I will say that if you are going to administer an instrument such as a questionnaire or something, and you were going to do it as a VCU representative, you might have to go through the Institutional Review Board just to make sure, because you're dealing with human subjects. But sorry, that's a bit technical, but just to make sure that you're covered. But I would talk to the community engagement folks. They're on the VCU website, and they should be able to help. You're welcome. I hope this was really helpful. Thank you very much. And if there's any more questions, let me know. Ah, there we are. There's the community engagement website. Bettina, is there any? Yes, Bettina is going to give you the PowerPoint presentation. And there's also going to be a recording that she's going to send out to everyone.
Yes, if you registered for this event, you're going to get an email with the slides as well as a link to the recording. I'll put a link to that. I'll go ahead and put a link to it in the chat box too.
Great. Well, we have a couple of more minutes if you have any other questions for me. And like I said, even in general, if you just have any questions about grant writing or research development, including finding funding opportunities, I'm happy to help. Just give me a call or send me an email. Thank you, Bettina.
Welcome. Thank you.
And thank you for inviting me. This was great. So I hope that it helped. Where can I learn more about grant writing? Send me an email. You're going to, my email address is Throckmortms. You can find me, right on the website. And we have a lot of grant writing information here on the Office of Research under the Research Development. So just go to the, you're going to go up to research at the top of the VCU website. There's my email address. And you're going to go to the research development website. And like I said, you can find a lot of information there. There are a lot of guides and things that you can take a look at for grant writing. If you're looking more into the fellowship, postdoctoral area, what you might want to do is give me a call. We do have a list of postdoctoral funding, but that's not updated on the website, and I can help answer questions for that. You're welcome. Anybody else? Well, thank you very much. It was a pleasure talking to you guys. And yes, there are examples of grants on the website. And if you need an example that you can't find, contact me. I might have something. Or we can contact a principal investigator or research here at VCU and see if we can find one for you. We do have some, what kind of example were you looking for? We have some examples of fellowship grants, some training grants. It would depend on what kind of example you wanted. So you can just send me over an email and we'll see what we can find for you. Anybody else? All right, well, thank you very much. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to see my presentation. This was my first time on Zoom, so hopefully it worked out okay. And I will give it back to Bettina.
Thank you for everyone for attending that's still here. And as we mentioned before, you'll get an email with links to all the materials from the session. We hope to see you again.
Thank you.